$750 million more dollars to Bitcoin. That's right. You heard that's right. Michael Saylor is trying to buy more Bitcoin now, and we're going to be covering this tonight, or should I say this afternoon. But first off, we've got Crypto Zombie in the house. What's going on, man? How you been?
What's going on? Thank you so much again for having me back on the show. It's been a while, so pleasure to be back.
Dude, it's always exciting to have all you guys on for these macro and TA talks. And up next, we've got Magic Internet Money in the house. What's going on, man?
Dude, always in fantastic condition out here in Kansas. You know that.
I love it, dude. I love it. So, guys, like you guys know, we're debate crypto here. We question everything. We trust nothing. So let's look at quick market overwatch here, and then we're gonna dive into some of these topics with you guys. We're gonna be hitting some macro fundamentals here for Bitcoin and some technical analysis, like always. So buckle in, guys. Smash those likes if you haven't already. But here we go. Let's see what is the market doing right now. I'm gonna do a quick little market overwatch share, and here we go. So let me refresh this real quick for you guys. Market 0.18% up. You know, nothing's been going on. Everything's been pretty much sideways. Even the last 7 days, you can see not much movement from Bitcoin or Ethereum. I mean, nothing's really been going on. Even XRP is starting to become a stable coin again. Nothing's moving. Nothing's really doing anything. So it goes back to the question, right? And I'm going to hit you with this one, Zombie, first. But, you know, Michael Saylor came out and he wants to buy another $750 million. He's been buying a lot of Bitcoin, you know, throughout this time. A lot of times people indicate, you know, every time he buys, it's kind of a local top situation, and we kind of actually dip a little bit more. How do you feel about this news of Michael Saylor continuously buying Bitcoin? Do you think he is onto something? He knows something here, or is this man out of control?
I mean, well, you're asking me, so I obviously
I'm asking you.
I'm very biased, clearly, towards Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin. So I say, keep on doing what you're doing, Sailor. Just keep buying. But it is funny you mentioned the whole local top thing, and I think the Sailor news, you are a little desensitized to it now. You know what I mean? Like, how many times can we hear that MicroStrategy bought some more Bitcoin? It kind of doesn't really have as much of the Sailor, effect as it used to. And as far as the local top thing is concerned, I do think that maybe we have reached a point where we might be a little bit sort of just like overbought for Bitcoin in the short term, but I'm still not looking for some crazy Armageddon dump like a lot of people are calling for, especially with the S&P and all that stuff. So I think the Sailor news is just kind of like, not like take it with a grain of salt. I don't think it has as big of an impact as it used to be, but I do think Sailor's onto something. And I think a lot of people are going to be upset that they didn't at least take, a similar approach, or at least allocate some of their capital to Bitcoin, because right now with this boring price action, nobody's paying attention. No one's talking about it. They don't realize what's coming right now. You have, if you don't mind, I know this is a little off topic, but just look at the whirlwind of possibility right here. So we have all these ETF applications potentially, being able to give access to all these traditional investors that normally wouldn't want to touch, things like crypto. Then you also have the halving, right, coming up next year. Then you also have the fact that the Fed have been raising rates for how long? And, 2024, 2025, I think there's a general consensus that they're probably going to start reversing at some point, pausing at least minimally and then reversing. And I just say the fact that the Fed, let's be real, has been trying so hard to break something, and yet nothing is breaking. Bitcoin's going up, stocks are going up. I don't know, man. It's it sounds to me like people are like paying less and less attention to that and realizing that, things like Bitcoin and crypto are much better alternatives. So yeah, that's why Saylor's loading up on it, because he realizes it,
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm going to give my thoughts on that same question later. I want Magic Internet Money to take his turn. What do you think about Saylor, right? What do you think about Saylor buying up this Bitcoin? Is this man crazy, or does this guy know something?
I do think he's a little crazy. Not that I'm not a Bitcoin bull. I'm very heavily exposed to crypto, obviously. But the dude's, track record's not great after the .com crash. So for me, when I see it, I'm like, fuck, he really is a top signal a lot. So do I get excited about it? I remember, like he was saying, back in the bull run, it did carry some weight, where it was like when Saylor bought Bitcoin, it was exciting, just like when Elon bought Bitcoin, So the thing is, does it make sense to buy when Michael Saylor's buying? Maybe not, depending on your strategy and your outlook, because his outlook is infinite at this point. He's working off of an idea that, my timeline doesn't exist. He's like, I'm holding this indefinitely. We're never selling.
That's very true.
You know what I mean? So, and he's got investors and buyers to do so. And I don't know what his leverage scenario looks like. And I think a lot of people speculate on it. We see headlines all the time that if Bitcoin goes to this, Michael Saylor is going to get liquidated. And it's a cool headline to put out there, but I think that's all that they do. So do I think he's crazy? Yeah. But I mean, if you're going to find success in this world, especially like, you know, generational success, sometimes you got to be a little wild and a little bold. So I hope it works out for him, because if it works out for him, it works out for me.
It's I think it's like a little irresponsible, but he clearly has a lot of money. So I don't think he really cares. But you know, just if you don't, I don't know if you know my story, but you know, I mean, when I first got into crypto, I definitely was not the example of what you should have been doing. I let my house go into foreclosure. I sold all of my cars. My girlfriend, we were using her money to pay for the basic bills to get by. And every dollar I was making for literally a year and a half, almost 2 years, I threw all into Bitcoin. So that was stupid, but it worked out really well. So, you know, you might be crazy with some of the things that you do, but if you have that conviction and you're willing to deal with the possibility that you're wrong, then, you know, that's up to you. You know, more power to him, I guess.
Dude, that's a crazy story. I mean, I would say that was pre Michael Saylor buying in, so maybe Michael Saylor's following your strategy.
Yeah, he was watching Crypto Zombie back in 2017. That's what it was.
Yeah. No, that's wild, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, like I would not do that again now, thinking about that. But yeah, that was crazy, man. Anyway.
Yeah, dude, so, I had a similar approach, right? I took out a $20,000 loan to get into Bitcoin at the time, and I dollar cost averaged into the market at like almost the peak of 2017, beginning of 2018. So it was a long ride, right? And it definitely took a lot of nights without sleeping to understand that I was paying out a loan that was in a loss for like 3 years. But
that's crazy, man.
But it turns out to work out great in the long term, right? Just enough time, and it works out. And I think that's where Michael Saylor comes from, right? Even though he's down right now, right? He was up, I think, a huge amount at some point, and he understands, right? Like you pointed out, the ETFs are coming, and Kathy Woods has talked about this, that there's a lot of ETF applications all happening right now, and they're all going to get approved pretty much simultaneously, one after the other, because if not, it's going to be a huge market share only goes to one ETF versus the others. And, you know, I think that's going to be a huge catalyst. And with Fidelity, BlackRock, and Invesco, and many other asset manager funds out there that are all funneling in to this ETF situation, he's preparing himself, right? He understands that there's a halving coming. He understands everything we understand and more, right, about these kind of things. So even though he's dollar cost averaging himself into Bitcoin and could be at a major loss if we have a turnaround here in the market, that's short term. Long term, he understands that Bitcoin will hit, you know, all-time highs again and break all-time highs, continuing the 4-year cycle, unless, you know, everything goes out the window. But assuming that, I think it's one of these things where it's crazy, but it's only crazy until you prove to people that it can work, right? And then the people are like, man, this guy's a genius, right? How is he going to go down in history, as a madman or as a genius, right? So I agree. It's definitely high risk, but you got to be able to risk. You got to be understand your level of risk, right? He's able to take this kind of risk because, like you said, he's got a lot of money and he's got ways to fundraise this money. Because somebody said in the chat, he's using other people's money. He's not throwing his own money on the line here for it, right? He's funding this. So he knows the level of risk that he can tolerate, and he understands the level of reward that is available here with you know, Bitcoin coming in. So that leads me to the next question here. And I promise, guys, we're going to get into the TA here real soon. But in the meantime, continue to smash those likes if you haven't already. Elon Musk, right? He's another controversial figure in the space, and he has come out with, you know, we were just talking about the X.com, right? Twitter is no more. Now it's X. Terrible looking app logo. I mean, I can barely find it on my phone. It's black.
Really ugly.
I hate black logos on apps because they just disappear on my phone. But outside of the ugly logo and terrible marketing of it, the man has come out saying that he is going to be launching stock trading and Bitcoin trading on this X.com platform, right? He's trying to create WeChat, that exists in China. If you guys don't know, China has a huge platform that is basically like Twitter, but it has everything funneled into it. And it's not just your social media, it's your bank account, it's your financials, it's everything in one place. And obviously China likes it a lot because they track everything. But he's trying to build something very similar to that here in the United States and around the world with the X.com. So Bitcoin being traded on, let's say, what used to be Twitter, is this a bullish thing for Bitcoin? Is this going to be another part of the catalyst that we're seeing for this next cycle, when it comes to Elon now being able to provide Bitcoin to just anyone that is on Twitter or X.com, whatever you want to call it? Why don't we go with you, Zabi?
Okay. Well, this might be kind of a boring answer, but yeah, I think anything that gives more exposure to, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and things like that is bullish. I don't necessarily know that it's going to have as big of an impact as some people might think. He's definitely got this big vision for X, and I could see him achieving what he wants to achieve, but he's throwing crazy numbers out there, like 50% of the world's global finance he envisions all interacting on X one day. It's pretty ambitious, but it is Elon Musk. He's pulled off a lot of crazier things than that. But for Bitcoin, really, I think, the bigger catalysts for Bitcoin, really, truthfully, boringly, are more of like ETF approval, clearer regulations and guidelines, because I mean, the problem really right now is, again, you don't have the majority of people who are used to being in the traditional space. They don't know what's going on right now. I'll just give you an example. So the IRS came out and they were saying how, if you do staking, that's basically the equivalent of a dividend of a stock and has to be reported as so as soon as you receive it, or as soon as you, access it, or whatever word they used. But in a weird way, if you have the SEC losing the Ripple case, just take it as it is or whatever. I know they might appeal it, but as of right now, they're saying it's not a security. But then you have the IRS saying if you stake on proof of stake and you get a dividend, that's treated like a stock. So you're saying it is a security. So you see, there's so much confusion that I think, like, bigger than just, oh, can we trade or buy Bitcoin on X? I think bigger than that would just be like, can we just actually come up with a clear guideline and stop
Let me hit you with a follow-up question here, and then Magic, I'll switch over to you. Talking about clarity and regulation, right? The SEC came out telling Coinbase to delist all altcoins except for Bitcoin and only to trade Bitcoin. Isn't that enough clarity right there for everyone like Saylor and these financial institutions to jump into Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think for, like, Bitcoin, a lot of people that follow the channel, sometimes they get bored because it's like, where are those 100x altcoin gems? That's what everybody, the degens, they want that. But guys, you got to understand, and getting back to the Saylor thing, of course I could see why he believes in it, because I think if Bitcoin fails, I think this space kind of fails, maybe not necessarily long term, but I think it would be detrimental. So, I think, personally, I'm sorry, what was the question? I completely forgot what you just said.
The follow-up was basically, you were talking about clarity, like we needed more clarity, right? And
yeah.
SEC said to Coinbase, hey, delist all altcoins and only
that's crazy,
trade Bitcoin.
Though. That's crazy. So I heard that was a rumor, though, because apparently the SEC denied saying that, but Coinbase says they said it. So yeah. I would probably honestly trust Brian Armstrong over Gary Gensler, to be totally honest with that. So I don't really know, but it's, he said basically, like, I mean, the signal that you're sending to them, delist everything except for Bitcoin, you're literally saying, without saying, like, we don't want crypto in America, and again, it's because of the people behind it. And Gary is basically, in bed with the bankers. He's a secret banker. That's what he is. He's not on the people's side. They don't do these things to protect our interest. They do it to protect their friends on Wall Street, their banker friends and all that. And the only reason that they don't have any real jurisdiction over Bitcoin is because the CFTC and pretty much everyone agrees at this point, Bitcoin is, money, it's property. It's not paying you anything. You don't need to stake it. You don't, so, yeah, I think right now, I think it's really, really, really bullish for Bitcoin. And I think a lot of people that don't have Bitcoin exposure because they think it's not going to do well, or there's other coins that will outperform it, maybe short term, but after being through as many cycles as I have, most of them don't come back. So you better be sure what you're holding. Are you holding a blue chip? Are you holding XRP or Ethereum? Or I don't know, because I don't want to throw names out there and make anybody angry, but there were a lot of promising blockchains, layer 1s and 2 and all this. And it's like, where are they? They haven't put in higher highs. People are not using them. They're abandoned products. So I think if you don't have Bitcoin in your portfolio, I think you're doing it wrong, honestly.
I agree with that. Let me rephrase the question here a little bit for you, Magic. So we mentioned Elon Musk trading platform, right? Bringing Bitcoin on. We mentioned clarity of regulations and the SEC with Bitcoin. Where do you see Bitcoin going with these kind of signals, where the SEC kind of making this play, right? Like Zombie was saying, Gary Gensler is a player for the banking system. Is this a play because BlackRock is now getting involved with the ETFs? They're really trying to push the Bitcoin narrative for their spot ETF?
Maybe. You never know. I think that X.com would be good for it, personally. I don't necessarily put too much weight into what the SEC is doing with Bitcoin because they have no real jurisdiction over it. There's no one they can sue. There's nothing they can do to stop it. It's too late. It's gone. That ship has sailed a long time ago, and I think they realize that. However, other places, in coins like Ethereum, which, has a founder, has an organization, ADA, they're going to go after these guys. If they don't want crypto in America, as Zombie said, they're going to do exactly what they're doing. They're going to keep going after the people they can, but you can't go after Bitcoin because there's no one to go after. That's the beauty of it. So, I think it's good if X.com achieves what he's trying to do, especially if he gets 50% of the world's trading volume. That would be insane. That will make the XRP community very upset, especially if he's not using that token. But it is one of those things where, the way I look at it is Twitter is a very easy platform, or X is an easy platform to get on, however you want to word it. And if you can make it synonymous with getting access to Bitcoin, and not just buying Bitcoin and trading it, but offloading, the ramp is what I'm interested in. As a trader, I want to know, can I onload and offload crypto easily? Is it secure? Am I going to have to jump through a bunch of fucking hoops? Excuse my language, because that's my biggest hurdle a lot of times when I'm looking at exchanges is, what are my limitations, and it's different for every exchange. If he can make that easy for the everyday consumer, because the everyday consumer has a Twitter account, that's a really big exposure. So I actually would look at that fairly bullish. How that affects BlackRock, I don't know. But I know that if he accomplishes what he wants to, and he can get that done, and, fees and, ease of use is there, that's huge, so.
The on-ramp, off-ramp thing, that's huge, but mostly the off-ramp.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. I have no problem buying cryptocurrency. Like, there are thousands of sites that are willing to take my money and send me some crypto, but trying to take that cryptocurrency and then converting it back into fiat and putting it into a bank account, for me, has been an absolute nightmare. I don't know for you guys. I mean, Coinbase, they basically froze my account indefinitely. I might as well be kicked off at this point, because they are just asking like a lot of really insane questions that they know there aren't answers to. So I don't know if it's just they don't want to, because I've heard a lot of people say they don't want to work with influencers or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, if he could get it integrated where, you could have your own individual sort of verified account, you are this person, and the AML KYC is kind of done within itself because we know who you are. Yeah, you're right. That would be good.
That would definitely be huge.
Like I'm just saying, for a lot of basic people watching, I know most people don't really have issues. I talk to most people, they're fine. They use their Coinbase, they use their Gemini, whatever. But as soon as you start talking to people that have been in the space for a lot of years and have actually generated a lot of income in crypto, like we're not talking about like $100 here or there. We're talking about like, I get paid in cryptocurrency. This is how I earn an income. That type of a person, then all of a sudden Coinbase just gets very weird. And a lot of these places, I don't know. It's just really, really
they're like, wait a minute, you're making money? We don't like that. No.
I know. God, oh my goodness. You guys, this is not the topic for today, but
why everybody moves to Dubai, man. Dubai doesn't care. They don't tax it,
I know. And everybody keeps asking me to go over there. I don't, it's not that I have a thing against Dubai. It's just, it's not really for me. It's like I would move there.
It's a huge move. I live in America. My family's here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Across the world, it's not exactly. I got kids, so.
But you do understand though, for everybody listening, even if you wanted to get those tax benefits of Dubai, a lot of people don't know this, but if you have a Chinese passport, or a US passport. You're the only two in the whole world that cannot avoid your taxes. Like if I was born in Germany and then I moved to Dubai, not a problem. That's fine. Switzerland, not a problem. Italy, not a problem. But America, nope. Send that cut back to Uncle Sam.
Taxes back. Yep.
You know,
unless you renounce your citizenship and get rid of your passport,
which
is a huge process. There are exit taxes on that. Like they will tax you on the process to exit that. They don't just say, "Well, you renounced this, so no, we don't owe taxes anymore."
Yeah, but they almost hold it worse. Like because once you renounce it, if you ever wanted to get it back, it's almost impossible. You have more chance of applying for U.S. citizenship if you've never been a U.S. citizen than if you've previously renounced it. They take that like really offensively. And considering that, the U.S. has basically the strongest passport in the world, pretty much. I mean, if you have a U.S. passport, you have one of the strongest passports in the world. It's tough. It's tough because, on paper, just get up and move, right? Because everyone can just get up and move. Everybody watching can just totally quit their job, sell their house, and move to Dubai. You know what I mean? Like it's not realistic.
It's very difficult, and like you said, not realistic. So let's get into the TA portion, guys. So smash those likes if you're excited. This is what you guys came here for, right? Let's look at some Bitcoin TA. What are you guys seeing in Bitcoin right now? Not we. There is an article out there saying these experts are let me read it to you guys right now. Crypto financial services firm predicts Bitcoin could skyrocket to 105K by 2025. But in the medium term, right in the short term, everybody is worried about what Bitcoin's going to do tomorrow, the next week, the next month. What are you guys seeing right in Bitcoin right now? Where is Bitcoin headed? Are we headed to 20? Are we going to eventually break 30? Why don't we start with you, Magic?
Right on. We're sideways as usual, but pretty simple stuff in my opinion. Not really trying to predict the market too much. We were looking for a top in this region. We got it. And we've actually come into some of those targets even. Got very close to what I call the B leg target of a harmonic. And I use this solo build here for all of my public stuff. So it's not very organized. So I apologize. But you were looking at this, right? This was the pattern we were looking for. And essentially what this is like a broadening wedge style pattern, right? So this is all we're looking for is we're just saying that if we have like a broadening wedge going on, you can see that you've taken both the lows and now the highs. What will determine the most important level is obviously going to be the 50% mark. So if you're a pattern trader, let me see where I've got the B leg here. I think it's the trend line actually. You're looking for the B leg, which we front ran by about $100, which I'm normally not a fan of, but you can't be too picky. So this would have been target 1, plus you did your Q3 pivot here. You want to see Bitcoin establishing support right here. The moment we start breaking back below probably 28,893, barring an SFP here, I also imagine that the pattern traders of the world are looking at this as like a falling wedge into support, which is valid. Need to see that breakout and get going. I try not to do a lot of pattern trading, but I want to keep it as simple as possible. We're at support. And if it doesn't break down in the next, week or so, you have to start looking at this as if it can clear this 30,300 July NPOC and the monthly average of last month, that's all this box is. So if we were to pull this up and take a look at it on a monthly schedule, you can see that this was the target. It's a mean reversion. So this was the average of price for the month of July. You've come back, you've hit it, and sellers were present. Now, I took that short. I've TP'd it 3 times. I still hold the short because, it's a good position. I got in pretty much at the top of it. So I'm going to let it ride. If I get stopped out, I get stopped out. It doesn't matter. I've made money, and it goes right back into spot Bitcoin at that point. If you clear this level, I anticipate you're going to go ahead and just make a new high, to be quite upfront with you. I think you would be looking to 32, 33K, and then we can play the game of get through that level and, and beyond. But realistically, the targets of this pattern will take time, and time is a big thing that I've been looking for. This was a perfectly symmetrical pattern. So 1-to-1, meaning that the time it took to go from X to B, the median, to the end of the pattern was identical. And so you would be looking at this as actually extrapolating this out, much like we did with XRP, and saying, if distribution is really taking place here, and this isn't just a larger structure, which it very well could be, you would be expecting the downtrend to really kind of continue all the way through August. So for me, just kind of playing it by ear. I hold my longs from 16.6. I've got a couple, like short positions here and there that are up higher, but I've definitely taken profits on those. I'm not in the business of fighting this trend just yet. I don't think even if we do break down from here that we necessarily even make new lows. I think it's just more of an opportunity thing. Identifying where risk is, in your favor. I know people are looking at this trend line right here, whatever it may be, whatever you're using, just be patient. The actual targets of this will come in down at, where's it at? 6M2 is 26,142. And then we do have some fibs right here. So you're coming into that 50% mark, which is your B leg, right? This one right here. Maybe. No, that is not the right box. Well, we'll just draw it. It'll be fine. This is your B leg. So this is the support you want to see holding, right? So you can kind of just look at this from a, historical price action that as long as price is above this, things are good. Below this, and I'm going to start targeting higher time frame averages that are not hit yet. Just like we tapped the average of July, this is the average of the first half of the year. These do get hit as well at a certain rate. So it's one of those things where you'd be looking for that. And then from a technical perspective on a pattern like this, where you've swept the lows and the highs, you're actually targeting the 886 next after the 50%. So really does need to hang on to this, 28,000-ish level. And until we reclaim 30,300, I do maintain a downside bias. It doesn't mean it's the end of the rally. It just means I'm looking for opportunities still. So, those opportunities when they come, and take advantage of. And this is the first opportunity. So if price continues to go sideways here and hold on to support, I may consider, hedging a small long at that point, mainly because I didn't get in on this move. I missed this one. I would have loved to have caught it, but I only caught the short end of the move. So I caught the short. I did not catch the long, which is disappointing, but that's okay. That's trading. Sometimes you just got to be patient.
There you guys have it. Michael Saylor, if you're watching, now you know where to get in. Looking for that 26, right? Send us a 33. But I mean, realistically, did you mention what you said something about August? Do you think what was your statement about August, like when that whole pattern is going to play out, or is just we're going to be still inside of this pattern through August?
Potentially, yeah. So what I like to do is I like to look at patterns like this that have developed. And then I like to start looking for confluences in time. Like, do we have one-to-ones that are coming in? Because a lot of times it takes just as long to distribute price as it does to go through like, a pattern or accumulation. So if we spend a long time putting in this top, which we did, it stands to make sense that we're probably going to spend a similar amount of time distributing the price, just like when there's accumulation patterns. XRP was the perfect example of that. The COVID low to the first peak of that pattern up at $2 was the exact same amount of time that it took at the dollar, what was it, like $1.40 something top down to the current lows at 29 cents. Exact same amount of time. So you're looking for confluences in time because, as I've said before, fear and greed, the whole, shebang, it's just people buying and selling. And when you stretch a rubber band, it often takes the same amount of time. And we're not looking for exact, but we are looking at things saying, okay, can we ballpark a window? And can I use that in conjunction with other technical analysis? If I can't, it's useless. You're just trying to fortune tell. But in this case, that's just something that I've worked on. And, there's other things like regressions, things like that are tracking trend over, in my opinion, a time basis that will let when trend is changing. Like the July regression is a really good one. It's essentially just a giant downtrend. But if we break out of it, I'm looking for a back test into that 30,300 area. And that's really kind of a big inflection point for me. You get above that, and then it's like, yeah, 32, 33K new high it could definitely happen. You may even see 38 or 48K. We don't know. Not here to be perfect, but at the same time, I'm not going to put myself in unnecessary areas of risk at this point in my trading, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Zombie, what are you seeing for Bitcoin in your TA?
Well, I'm not going to repeat everything you said. There are a lot of things I agree with you on. So let me
for
share.
sure.
Let
me
share
like
my
seeing the
screen.
different styles.
Yeah, for sure, man. Why? I just had this, and I literally had my screen shared, and I clicked off accidentally. Hold on, I had it. We had this set up already. All right, can you guys see this?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so I'm a little simpler, I guess, more. And I do look at patterns, which is funny because he was talking about the falling wedge, which if you guys notice that we were in a giant falling wedge pattern, actually, from this formation back in 2020. And you could see that, people were actually laughing at me saying that, no way, it's too big, that's crazy. And we did break out of it to the upside. And technically, wherever you would want to put this, some people like it on the exact breakout, which would give you a really high target. But if you want to just play it safe on the retest, I still think you're looking between $47,000 and $57,000 from this move at some point. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to go straight up in a line. Now, this is the S&P. And I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter all over the place freaking out because they're saying that, we're losing this. I'm not saying that we're not. It's only 2 days in. They could be correct. But, realistically, we have this parallel channel. And if you kind of look at right here, we've only just barely fallen below it, but yet we're still, being supported at this area. So I'm not fully convinced that the stocks are about to turn over. They might. I don't know. I'm not, I can't read the future. But having a look at Bitcoin right now, there are a lot of similarities that we're seeing. Oftentimes when you look at, just for example, this guppy, you could see the similarities right here. And the fact that we fell out and instantly came back into all of these EMAs. I mean, I don't know if you could see that wick right there. Well, actually, we kind of had a Darth Maul to the top too. But, they're kind of keeping us in this range, which is really, really interesting. But if you flip it to a larger scale, again, you can get caught up on the 1 hour, 4 hour, whatever. But if you look at something like this for the weekly, for example, and you just have a look at kind of what we're having down here, like look at this area right here, right where we were coming out of this bear market. I mean, just look at it with your eyes. Don't even worry about counting it. You could see that, we flip into the red. We have 3 of these blues, which don't worry what that really means. It's just essentially just, triggering whether or not the bands are flipping. When they're on top, they're light blue. When they're on the bottom, they're dark blue. But you could see we had 1, 2, 3 red, and then we went into neutral right here, right? And then if we come over here, what are we doing? We have the same thing, right? We have 1, 2, 3 red, and now we've gone into neutral. So, I mean, if this indicator, flashes this light blue, like see where this green arrow is? If we get a light blue like that, I would say that history is definitely, not perfectly repeating, but it's rhyming. I mean, look at the same thing right here. If you switch to the hike and a she, you can see more of those trends with the candles. You have the green pump. This is out of the COVID, right? A little bit of red, green, a little bit of red, and then off. And it's like we're kind of doing almost a similar structure as we did back there. Another thing to pay attention to is, whenever we have the most bullish scenario is when you have these moving averages in the actual order that they are, meaning that, this is the 200, this is the 100, this is the 50. And when they're in that order from bottom to top, that's the most bullish because that's when, we have price moving to the upside, we have the lowers moving above. And as you can see right here, there's a little bit of a concern only because I'm noticing that we do have this 100 coming down, which could arguably, be some form of a death cross, maybe. But we also have the 50 looking like it wants to curve up. So at some point, let's say around maybe September or October, depending, we might potentially have that cross. Now, do we need to retest some of these lower levels? Well, we did have this giant parallel trend. I know I showed you guys we had the falling wedge, but you can also, now that we have come up to this point, say that it does. 2 points of contact, is that really enough? I don't know. But could we have a retest on there? That is, an absolute possibility. We have a CME futures gap up here at around 35,200. And if you wanted to just kind of have an estimate of where we might pull back, if you just take a simple Fibonacci, I actually just took this from the top to the bottom of this move. Obviously, we're assuming this is the local top. We don't know. But if we are assuming that, then maybe there is the possibility to come down to the 0.618. That's about 25.9. Why couldn't we do that while still maintaining an upward sloping trend? I think, this area right here, this falling below the 24,000, that's where I might start to get a little bit worried. But I will tell you one thing, regardless, these Bollinger bands, I don't know if you guys have seen this on the weekly. They are, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe my chart's different than your chart, but this is the lowest and tightest that they have ever been ever in the history of Bitcoin. So that to me is telling me like there's going to be like a rip your face kind of move. And I just want to give a shout out to Trader Tardigrade. He pointed this out. If you actually take these identical wedges, it's really interesting how, again, history doesn't necessarily repeat, but it often rhymes. And it's really weird how every time right before we start the major bull run, we set up this pattern. So, again, there's some very key levels, 25,300, which was the Terra Luna crash, which we may retest. But yeah, I don't think we're going to be going to new lows. I don't think that. I think a correction is possible but I don't think new lows are coming. I think if you're waiting for 12, 10, 8, I think you're gonna just be pissed off that you didn't get exposed, because the reality is, you know, like Magic and I, we're just taking educated guesses. We've been going sideways for like 45 days. So it kind of is, I need something to happen on either side. But I do think if we get that pump, we get above that 31, 32 area, I think we're going to keep going. And I think if we have a pullback, I think that is going to be your last opportunity. And you can quote me on that. If we have a pullback, whatever that is, if we could fall 30%, I don't care. I think that's going to be it. If you don't take your opportunity on that, I don't think you're going to get another shot at these levels. That's just my opinion, though.
I agree with that. I definitely agree that I don't think we're going to hit new all-time lows. When we were pretty low at 15, 17, I was, you know, 7 to 10,000 was big numbers being thrown around. I didn't believe in it back then. I mean, I don't know anything about TA, right? I don't know jack squat about nothing, but in my bones, I was just like, it doesn't seem like it made sense to me, because it became the same parallel of the 100K.
Yes.
Right. When we were at 69, everybody was like, 100K is imminent. Everybody prepare yourself. Right. And then when we were at 17, 15, everybody was like, 10K any day now, get ready. And I was like, that's a bottom signal. I don't think that's going to happen. Right. So like I said, I agree. I believe the next pullback can definitely happen at any moment. And it's part of the bear market. It's normal.
If you go to the
fear and all-time low.
If you go to the fear and greed index right now, it's at 52. That is like almost as neutral as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
So there is like no real sentiment right now. Like no one's overly bullish, no one's overly bearish. It's a bunch of people kind of just spewing their opinion of where the market is going to go. And like I said, I think that we just need to see. And it's so typical, because I know there's somebody on the other side of the screen. I get this all the time. Oh, so it's going to go up or going to go down? Yeah, okay, I could have told you that. That's what you get, right? But it's a matter of probabilities right now. And the probability of a pullback short term is higher than the probability of a pump right now. You know what I'm trying to say? Like that, the probability is in favor of a pullback short term. But, you know, as Magic said, and as I was pointing out, if we break that, you know, 32 whatever area, depending on what chart you're looking at, then you're probably not going to come back, you know, and then you are going to be set up. So you have to be prepared to like hedge yourself in either direction. But I'm still I'm only, if anything, slightly short term, maybe a little bit bearish. I'm still midterm bullish, and I still think we're going to end this year higher than where we are right now. Like, I don't think we're going to end this year lower. That's my opinion. But just from looking at Bitcoin, looking at the charts, looking at the cycles, that's just what I'm seeing right now. So yeah, that's where
I've heard that a lot. I've heard that a lot, that the end of this year is going to be an interesting one from a lot of different people. So I'm definitely excited to see where this end of the year goes. And it goes back to, I know I've said it a bunch of times and I'll continue saying it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I believe the super cycle, if it's ever going to happen, it's going to happen this time, because all the events are just building up perfectly fine, perfect with the US dollar continuously collapsing, right? We continue to see the Bitcoin ETF moving forward. We're seeing Elon Musk coming on with the Bitcoin trading thing. Just there's a lot of narratives. There's a lot of things pushing Bitcoin into the spotlight that it needs to be in for a super cycle to occur. So if there's any moment in time that a super cycle could exist, I think the foundation that it needs is here right now. If it doesn't happen now, I don't think it will ever happen.
Can I add two things to that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel bad. I feel like I'm like just talking too much this show. I have so much to say. Like, so I was thinking about that. We were talking about this, and I truly believe that this cycle that we go into, regardless of if it is a super cycle or not, I just think that after this cycle, you know, with the ETFs and BlackRock and, all the Michael Saylor and Elon and all, and integration, I just feel like this is that like people talk about gold. What is the exciting thing happening in the world of gold right now? Nothing. You just buy gold because it's a hedge against inflation. It's hard, that's it. And I just think right now, after this, what really is going to be the next thing in the cycles? Like, what is the next big narrative that comes in, except for what? Like, we just start using Bitcoin for just everyday
world reserve asset, I guess.
Yeah.
It'd be that narrative. Like, but is it going to be the next,
yeah, exactly,
asset for all countries to use?
The only other thing that I wanted to say, being realistic, is you can get really caught up in the echo chamber. And unfortunately, I am a very pro Bitcoin person. I'm always bullish. I love Bitcoin. So it's hard for me to like kind of show that other side, but you do have to be realistic. And I just wanted to say that the only thing that's a little like worrisome right now for Bitcoin is like you've seen the S&P pump. The S&P is only down like 5%. Bitcoin is still down over like 54, 55%. And unfortunately, if you just kind of look at the flow of the money and you, for example, look at the Bitcoin dominance, which is back up over 50% again, it kind of is telling me that a lot of the money that went into Bitcoin probably was already in the ecosystem, clearly, because the dominance has been going up. So it's a lot of recycled money. Maybe people were scared of the SEC. They didn't want to hold altcoins, so they jumped into Bitcoin, you know, as a safe haven. That's the only thing that worries me, because there kind of is a lot hanging on what happens with the BlackRock, what happens with the regulation, and you're not going to get that crazy big money coming in. And I worry right now that if it's just the same people kind of staying in the space, recycling the money, you can only push it so far. You know?
I agree. You definitely need new blood, right? You need new money. Bitcoin needs.
You got to fuel the Ponzi.
Yeah, exactly, right. Some way, somehow, you need the spot ETFs. You need some improvement in adoption, right? Something to continuously pushing Bitcoin forward. To see these crazy prices that, you know, $500,000 Bitcoin, $1 million Bitcoin, like that's just not going to happen with retail alone, right? Unless you're talking about like a super hyperinflated US dollar denomination of Bitcoin, then you'll see it. No problem with just retail with the same recycled money. But you bring up a great point about the S&P, about, you know, we're talking about the US dollar. So I want to shoot this question at Magic. The US dollar just got demoted from a AAA currency to a AA plus, whatever that means, right? So we've seen the Fed rates continuously increasing. We saw that just 5 months ago, banks were collapsing because of the Fed rate, because of the interest rates, right? But now we're continuously raising them. Are they continuously pushing this to eventually collapse some more banks? Is the US dollar going to continue dropping, right? The Dixie going to keep dropping? What are you seeing in traditional finance that you're saying this could be bad for traditional, but maybe positive for Bitcoin? Or even maybe say, hey, this is bad overall. If this happens, everything's going down. Are you seeing anything?
The chart to me is somewhat neutral, but I still lean towards we're going to see like 98 cents on the dollar. I know we're at 102.55.4 right now. I'll share my screen. There was a trade set up on this one. So, you know, if we zoom out to the monthly chart, we can look at a couple breaker levels at some point here, right here. This is where you wanted to see monthly candles closing below. You just did not have it. In fact, you had a perfect one-to-one reversal. So that looks like this, where you just take the measurement of A to B to C and then project how long it took you to go to A to B off of C. And it took the exact same amount of time, almost the exact same distance in terms of drawdown. Perfect one-to-one channel reversal. Now you're targeting the 382.5 and 0.618. If you're looking for the dollar to really have any strength, you do have to zoom out a little bit. And what I mean by that is, and there's going to be quite a few lines on the chart, so I do apologize in advance, but going out just to the monthly straight away, you can see why this level is so important. We've really been basing on it. So that's why I refer to it as a breaker level. You're just closing just above it or on the level. If broken, I expect to see the 12M level about over time, probably 96.5, but I think 98 first, and then, you know, more than likely you're going to see this mid 96s, but that's not really a bad thing. You know, if we zoom out even further, you can see that this was just our overall consolidation previously. So this is a back test for the dollar. So in order for the dollar to really do anything, it's going to have to start closing much higher than it is. Otherwise, I expect acceptance back into this channel, so to speak, over time, and the dollar just to continue cycling. And it cycled in this channel from 2014 until 2022. So, you know, you can kind of figure out what was going on in the world at those times. Do I think it's the end of times for the dollar just because it falls back in here and maybe comes back to some of these previous historical levels that it's always kind of done? No, I mean, I think that markets go in cycles, you know, and there's a lot that goes on in those. And this doesn't, just like Bitcoin, you know, actually, I'll say this, Bitcoin does kind of just go straight up and to the right forever. The dollar does not. You know, like I can't say that about Bitcoin where it doesn't go straight up, because if you look at the Bitcoin macro chart, it's not sideways. It's literally just to the right and up. So, yeah, I mean, if it's falling back in here, that's probably good for Bitcoin and risk on assets. You know, in terms of the SPX, I was looking for this specifically. This is your SPX reversal pattern. We actually aired this pattern on your guys' channel back when it completed. It was me and Bill Noble. And we talked about the reversal. The big target is going to be this B leg right here, right around 4,080. And that once reached and reclaimed, you want to see this Q1 low holding. Now you've completed a perfect, again, one-to-one, just like with what Bitcoin just did, where it took the exact same amount of time to form the first half of this pattern. You've now formed the second half of the pattern almost to the day in terms of timing. So symmetrical indeed. You would just be looking for a back test of X at the Q3 high, which is 43.25. And then you'd be looking for the B leg at 41.95. Ultimately, as long as it's above 4,000 points, there's really nothing to worry about in traditional market land. You know, it's like we can all kind of like scream fear in the streets and that we're going to 10K, but there's really no merit to it right now. So with inflation coming down, the dollar finding its way back into lower levels potentially over time here, unless it, you know, the dollar, the big level is right here. So this is what you want to see. If you're like macro bullish on the dollar and you really want to collapse of the economy, and I know there's a lot of levels here. So the white line that says 6M SFP at 105,788, right? So this is a 6-month candle. You have not closed above this level in a long time. And it's actually regarding it as resistance. So a really nice breaker level for the high time frames. A recovery of this level would be good for a pump. And you can see what happens when we've been above it. Pretty much people dumping their dollars. So if we get back above it, we could see an extended rally. I don't think we'll actually see a new high on the dollar. I just think that maybe you get like a mean reversion back like a gold pocket or something like that. But, you know, realistically, I'm not looking for that to happen. I'm just looking for maybe this local setup that we talked about to play out. And then after that's done, you know, this is where you would anticipate either there to be that breakout and that test of 105 or some kind of a rejection and fall back into this larger, you know, macro channel. And then, you know, we see historical price action take over from there. It's not the end of days for anything. I certainly don't think it is for Bitcoin by any means, because, you know, there's a lot of catalysts that go into Bitcoin. You know, we were talking about earlier, and this isn't chart related, but in terms of like what's driving Bitcoin up, is it new users, whatever it is, Bitcoin is growing as fast as the internet grew. You know, I mean, when you think about new people onboarding to Bitcoin, it's coming. And it's not just, you know, institutions, it's retail investors as well. And that is a big portion of it, because if it's going to actually become a currency, which it's already like the 15th largest in the world, maybe even bigger than that, I can't remember where it's at now. There's nothing stopping it, especially when it has its own personal catalyst to continue going up. And that personal catalyst is the halving. It's built into it. So as it onboards more users, there's more demand. And what do we know? Supply is shrinking. So it just stands to make sense that why would you want to be in an asset like the dollar that does go through rotations and fluctuations? Sometimes it's good to have dollars, but long term, it's much better to be taking advantage of Bitcoin opportunities.
That's definitely something to consider. Not to cut you off, but I mean, no, I don't know if you've actually seen the data lately on the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges compared to historical. It's crazy. It's the lowest it's been since something like mid 2018 or something like that, which means a lot of people are self-custodying it. And I don't think what people don't realize is there will be a demand, like supply crunch liquidity issue at some point if these bigger players want to come in. I mean, because right now, look at what we're doing, but imagine now you have the green light for all of these big players to come in. Where are they going to get the Bitcoin from? You know, I mean, you can play the paper Bitcoin. They're already doing that with futures.
They're going to buy Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. He is the ETF now.
Yes, he is the ETF. But it's serious. I mean, you just saw it take a nosedive. Now, I think a lot of it is because people maybe were freaked out about FTX and they're like, well, I don't want to leave my crypto on an exchange. That could be why, but it doesn't really matter. The point is if you have these big guys coming in and they want to make these big purchases, there's less on exchanges. You're going to have more slippage unless they're doing OTC. But again, you know, you still have to have, if you're doing OTC, you still have to physically have that Bitcoin. And if the Bitcoin is scarce and the halving, you know, you keep having less and less and less come out, it's the opposite of the dollar. That's why, you know, when you had the DXY pulled up, the dollar, it has been kind of going sideways, you're right, for a while. But really, if you just look at the trend, the dollar puts in lower highs and lower lows consistently. I mean, you know, you had 163 back in the 80s, then you had 120 in 2001, and then we peaked again here at around 114, 115. So it's like literally just put the two charts on top of each other. Like the dollar is doing this and Bitcoin is doing this. It's just A 5-year-old would tell you which one to buy, which
one of
one
my
to hold.
favorite charts to do that with is gold, actually. Bitcoin versus gold. It's literally gold just dumping.
Yeah. Well,
It's
see,
insane.
that's the other thing too, is like all these gold bugs, right? They're all celebrating, right? They're all my gold hit an all-time high. It took gold 10 years to get back to the same price. Okay, great. So it put in a higher high by like 2 or 3%. Okay, but do you know how much the dollar devalued in that same 10 years? So, you know, if I had $20 10 years ago and then I have $23 today, that's not really that good of a hedge. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a decent hedge, but considering that you're touting it as something much bigger than what it really is, once you kind of strip away that facade, I mean, you can even say that about the, you know, the markets in general. You know, if you actually compare the inflation rate to the stock market rate, there are people that argue that the stock market has actually never made a new all-time high if you take into consideration purchasing power and inflation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because of all the injection of capital put in.
That's like a Benjamin Cohen chart. I don't have that data on my. I just know it. I don't have that on my computer, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, rate of inflation's outpacing the rate of increase of assets.
Right. So on paper, you're like, oh, look at the stocks; they're hitting new all-time highs. But it's like, but really, in purchasing power, they're not. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man.
You guys broke it down.
Go
ahead.
That's why Bitcoin. That's why we stick with Bitcoin.
Yeah, man, that's the best explanation of, you know, why Bitcoin is simply that. It's the supply and demand, like Magic was saying, right? Bitcoin has it built in where it continuously has its catalyst to continue increasing, versus the dollar's catalysts are just going to make it continue dumping because it's being manipulated by greedy hands at the top, right? And that's the problem with the dollar versus Bitcoin. And anyone ever asks you why Bitcoin, it's not backed by anything. One, it's backed by energy. And two, why Bitcoin? Is it simply the supply and demand, how it's built in, the scarcity of it, the supply crunch is what makes it valuable, and it gives people financial freedom to, you know, transact with anyone with no middleman. And I understand a lot of cryptos can do that, but like Magic pointed out at the beginning of this, right? When it comes to regulations, when it comes to problems with companies and countries and whatever, nobody can go after Bitcoin. But they can go after XRP, they can go after Ethereum, they can go after a lot of these other altcoins, and they will have a problem, right? Just how like they're going after Hex right now. You know, RIP Hex community. Like,
apparently
it's all over.
Apparently there's rumors that said they're going after all the influencers. So I don't know. Everyone's like, oh, are you worried? I'm like, I'm not really that worried. I talk Bitcoin 99% of the time, and I don't like, you know what I mean? Like, and if I talk about altcoins, it's from a very like fundamental perspective. It's not like, oh, go buy it because I got a bag. So I'm not really worried.
When I get a bounty for talking crap about Hex the whole time, I was letting you guys people know. I was letting people know Hex is trash. But you know, whatever. It sucks what's happening with Richard Heart and you know, the Hex community. I know a lot of people lost money on that, and I don't like making fun of them in that way. But
I feel bad for the people that lost money, but at the same time, I just look at them like, if it's truly what it looks like, which is a Ponzi, if it's truly what it looks like a Ponzi scheme, you know, and there's nothing there to it. There's no utility, anything. It's one of those things where it's like, what's really the value here?
Yeah, they're just creating free stuff out of nothing.
Yeah, it's not good.
Well, didn't he even say like verbatim that he modeled it like after like Ponzi's and scams, but it was like a legitimate one because he was like admitting that was how I don't know, man. I have no idea. I don't know enough about Hex. I don't know enough about Hex to speak on it. Yeah,
but I don't.
I just see his outfits and what he's doing with the money, and I'm just like, you know, if you guys are thinking he didn't break the law, it looks like he's spending, you know, commingled funds, however you want to word it, you know. So that's a big violation for any asset, and if he broke the law, he broke the law. I'm not advocating that we just go after every influencer or anything, but like in that instance, I mean, that's a really big law to break with that amount of money, because he's not like buying small things. There's like videos of him going to like Coach and Gucci, like coming out with like, you know, like
he bought like the biggest diamond in the world.
Yeah, he's got like some ridiculously
555 carats.
Yeah, like what? I mean, come on. And he constantly has like watch collections, and I'm just like, that doesn't mean he couldn't have made that money the right way and spent his own money. I'm not saying that he couldn't have done that. But if you don't think that the SEC isn't looking at this going, there's no way he's spending this amount of money that isn't customer funds.
Yeah,
it's a problem, you know. And if he's not, then great, he'll be exonerated. and the Ponzi continues, right? But if he is, they should be happy that this man's going down, and hopefully they get retribution from it and they seize the assets and give it back to the people that are locked in staking for God knows how long.
Yeah,
10,
like
20
years,
dude. Oh
right?
my
Yeah.
God, yes.
That'd be my only hope.
Hex,
Is if that happens, they don't fine him into oblivion and keep the money. They give it back to the people, which I know is asking a lot, but
definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, look what
again-
the SEC did with what was it, BlockFi or whatever it was. They took like 50 million from them from their lawsuit. And it's like that 50 million could have gone back to people becoming whole.
I agree.
It's like you're claiming you're protecting the people, but you're just packing your bags with cash and from the people that lost the money.
I know this isn't where we planned on going with this episode. I didn't plan on talking about Hex, but I have a serious question because, like I said, I'm like very not familiar with Hex. So, like, excuse me if I've offended anyone. I don't really know what I'm talking about. But wasn't the original, like, wasn't Hex itself, was that an ICO? Because I thought it was like where if you remember, it's like if you had so much Bitcoin, you would get airdropped Hex. So outside of the people that, well, I'm saying like outside of the people that are purchasing on the secondary market, because they're obviously on exchanges now, wasn't the initial just an airdrop to people that had Bitcoin? So I don't know, like, I'm not sticking up for anybody. I'm just saying, I don't know like where that falls in, because
I actually
like,
don't know.
It's like, here's a bunch of free stuff, and then you decide to go take that to like the store and sell it. So like, you know what I mean?
I think you're thinking of Pulse. Pulse was modeling it off of Ethereum.
And that was an airdrop?
Yeah, they did like an airdrop recently, and he was releasing
Oh, yeah,
Pulse
you're right
chain.
about that.
And then, but I don't know about how. I actually don't know how Hex originally started. So I'm like you. I'm ignorant. In the whole thing.
I don't recall there being an ICO. I thought they just airdropped it to Bitcoin holders, but you had to like put it in a wallet and do something. I don't know.
I've always found the guy somewhat fascinating because he's one of those personalities that you just gravitate towards. Like whether he's a good guy or bad guy, it's the verdict is still out. But he definitely is polarizing, and he's intelligent. You can't say he's not intelligent. When you hear him talk, like you can just kind of tell. And when he talks, like, yeah, I'll watch that video if it's convenient for sure. Because I'm curious a little bit. Doesn't mean I'm going to invest in that company or anything, but the dude is definitely brought a lot of attention to himself. So when people are surprised that Hex was, targeted by the SEC, I'm like, I mean, look at the founder. He's done everything he can to be in front of everyone all the time.
That is
he brought this on himself, like. So nobody can really be upset about them doing their job, and hopefully it's a fair, assessment, and justice is served, quote unquote. But and that means if they're exonerated or if he's found guilty of whatever laws he may have broken. So I got no dog in the horse.
I'm not rooting for either or. I'm not a fan of Gary. I'm not a fan of the SEC.
Yeah, they're not doing a great job.
But again, no, they're doing a terrible job intentionally. Come on, it's so obvious. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, they'll figure it out. Not rooting for the SEC. I don't know. But of course, if this is a like DOJ type of a situation, now I don't know. Now you're talking potential fraud and other things. So that's like a whole nother can.
Bernie Madoff type situation.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about
exactly. Yeah, however it plays out, hopefully it plays out the right way, right? If it is fraudulent, drop the hammer. If it's not, let him go. Let it be free. Right, I believe somebody here.
My only thing is drop the hammer and give people their money back. That's all I ask. that's the only way it's made right. Is make sure that if it is fraudulent, you return the funds. And there's a clear, easy way to do it because it's blockchain. There should be no questions. It's like this should be easy to do, but we know it won't be.
I agree. Somebody said here that there is a documentary coming out on Richard Heart called "The Highest."
I'll watch it.
I'll watch it. I'll see what it's up because I don't know how Hex started. I just know that it built that cult-like mentality, like XRP did, and it just took off. People made a ton of money with Hex, and then Pulse Chain was coming out, and it was gonna give you everything that you had on Ethereum, and people were sacrificing their Hex on these like 10-year, 20, 30-year mortgage rate deals, right? And people were betting everything on it because they had made so much money with Hex initially, and then it.
Look, stranded on a desert island, I'd prefer to have Bitcoin, but even me, I don't think I would agree to even have my Bitcoin, even though I believe it's going to be worth more. I don't think I would lock my Bitcoin up for 10, 20 years. Like you should have access to your funds. You know what I mean?
That's a huge commitment.
Well, that's the whole point of Bitcoin is that you've got access to it all the time. Like you can do whatever you want with these. They're yours, right? Why lock it up? That's how I look at it. Why lock it up and take that power away from yourself when it's your asset to begin with? That's the whole point of, crypto, in my opinion. That's what it was all started on. Now DeFi and things like that are coming out, which I think have interesting capabilities. However, I think those avenues are going to be the ones that get the most resistance, because they do challenge the banks more than anything. They start taking away that customer base and those, investing mediums, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
They're not going to like that. And neither is the government. If they don't have the rules in place and they don't feel they're playing by the rules, they're going to go after them, because you got to remember how these guys get into power. And this isn't to get political, but like people that get into Congress or get into any of these positions, they have lobbyists. They don't get in there for that like cheap $100,000 salary or 140 salary that's in Congress now. They get in there because they toe the line for who's propping them up. And that is banks, that is oil, that is these large companies, whether people like it or not. We live in a corporate democracy now. It's like,
did you see Elizabeth Warren came out with like, I think Bernie Sanders was on it. He was behind it. And like, they're urging the IRS to get their act together for like crypto. And they're like rooting on the IRS. Like, you guys, come on. I'm like, what the heck?
I commented on that thread and I was like, can we just see the numbers, like where they got this idea? Because I just wanted to show her work. Like, if they're stealing billions, like, tell me how you got to that number. Do you have any data suggesting this, or are you just like saying this shit out loud because you're anti-crypto? Like, you have to come out with some kind of a proof at this point. Like, we need to audit and do these things. You're asking for a huge initiative that could potentially be a huge headache for a lot of Americans, like a big problem, kind of like what they did with Cash App last year. They rolled it out and they didn't tell anyone, and then they couldn't actually fulfill it. I don't know if you guys saw that, where it was like everyone was going to get a 1099K from Cash App for anything over $600 in total transactions. And then they were like, ooh, we actually don't have the people to control that audit. That's going to be, because it was going to auto generate an audit. So this next year it will, but they didn't let anyone know really. And so they actually rolled it back because it was going to be such a problem. And so they're going to try it again this year, where anyone that did over $600 on Venmo or Cash App is automatically going to get a 1099K. And then the burden of proof that it was not income, taxable income, is now on the person, which is like insane. So
that is
wild.
insane.
That's
It's so, don't get me started on the taxes again, man. If you know what I've gone through recently, I wish we could just adopt a system of just value added tax. Done. Forget the paperwork. Forget all that. Look, it's 20%. That's it. You go buy something for $1, you give them $1.20. I get to keep all my income. End of story. But here's the thing. How about this, Elizabeth Warren? So, you Google this right here. Elizabeth Warren makes $174,000 a year, but yet she has a net worth of over 12 million. And that's only what we know about. And if you go and you look up how she makes her money, it says that, she used to do a lot of different types of educational stuff, but she doesn't do any of that anymore. So, you want to talk about funny business. You make $174,000 a year, but yet you have over $12 million. Like, where do these guys get their money from?
Yeah, where did that money come from?
Yeah,
that's a
where did that money
ROI
come from?
right there, right? Like
it's so weird. You're rooting for the banks, you're rooting for the IRS, and you're building an anti-crypto army. Again, not to be political, but you're probably like, she's a Democrat. She's losing voters of her own party in that, because I know there's no way that anyone intelligent in the younger generation. It's going to be
an interesting election, because this is the first election I feel like that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is going to be an actual topic that has to be discussed and debated. Before, it was just something that was like taboo. Nobody really ever talked about it. We don't care. Let's talk about the main things. Now crypto is in the front, so I do think it's going to be one of those topics that could be divisive, because there's a lot of people in crypto that work in here. We make our money in this now. They're going to become one party or one issue voters potentially. And that was never like that before, So I am kind of curious to see what shapes up politically out of this going forward. I know we got a lot of time still, but if the Simpsons got anything right, I think everybody's talking about aliens, and they said that it comes out at the election. So when the presidential election comes, we'll just find out they're both aliens, and that the losers are just
both reptiles.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's freaky stuff, dude. I mean, the Pentagon mistakenly sent extra $1 billion or whatever it was to Ukraine, and they were just like, "Oh, it was just an accounting error. We sent more money than we need to.
We accidentally sent an extra billion, but we need to know your $600 Venmo."
But all the crypto guys, all the crypto people, they're the real criminals here, right? They're the ones not paying enough taxes. They're the ones, doing all the scams. None of them, right? Never look at what the government is doing. And on both sides, because there's politicians on both sides that are doing exactly what Elizabeth Warren and Pelosi and all these people are doing. They, like you said, right, 150,000 salary. They're all worth billions of dollars, or millions of dollars. So how does that happen, right? They're all taking some paycheck from somewhere. that's, you know, pushing some agenda some way, somehow. So like Magic said, right, people will be one issue voters here, especially for crypto, right, with RFK, DeSantis. I believe Trump will come out pro Bitcoin. I know he has an NFT collection. He has two, right? So I definitely
If
don't
not,
see
the
him
SEC is
being
going to come for him, bro.
well, they
They're gonna
technically can't really come for him because he didn't create the NFT. Somebody else
Yeah,
created the NFT, and they're just paying him to use his likeness.
yeah.
So, but I think he's going to come out pro Bitcoin. I think he's going to come out pro Bitcoin. I know he's been very anti Bitcoin before, but I think he's, you know, it's time for him to make the shift.
Hey,
And
Saylor was ragging on it in like 2013, 2014. If you go back and look at his old tweets, he was saying,
yep,
you know, like, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And now he's the poster child. So I think eventually, with enough time, everyone will figure it out. You know, even, and this is funny. I know we're like going way over time here, but when I first got into crypto, I was really big into Bitcoin. But then I started to, you know, because you're like, all right, Bitcoin, but let me start buying these altcoins. And I actually started buying so many altcoins that at one point I had like almost no Bitcoin actually. And I think at the end of the day, you just kind of just warm up to it. You know, you realize once you stop judging it, like everybody that I know personally, like from my family to my friends, everybody, when I first got into it, it was, what are you doing? You're crazy. This is stupid. You know, how do you even know if it's real? If you throw all your money into this, how will you ever get your money back if it's stuck on the, you know, just like so much.
It honestly takes a bear market. For what you just said happened to me too. I bought a bunch of fucking altcoins and I didn't have almost any. I had Bitcoin Cash, for God's sake, at one point. No Bitcoin, and, you know, like Litecoin, Ethereum, all that stuff. Because like in 2017 and 18, that was, once those things took off, it was crazy. You know, and that's after Bitcoin hit 20K basically. But then you were fed all this stuff that, no, this technology is great, but they didn't really have any working product or anything. Whereas Bitcoin was already the product. And so when you say these things, I'm like, it just takes it takes one bear market, and a lot of times for people to go from altcoin investors and I'm only buying these low cap gems to, I need something sound that I know is likely going to be there and still appreciate in value. And it's Bitcoin and Ethereum in most cases, things like that, you know, the blue chips.
Yeah. I know a crypto influencer who I'm not going to mention his name, but I was speaking with him. He's on YouTube. You can find him. He just recently lost the majority of his money that he had. I'm not saying who. That he had been, I don't want to put him under the bus.
No, I just said oof.
Oh, oof. I thought you said who.
No.
That he, you know, and it was because, you know, he did really well. And then he got, you know, he started seeing some of these altcoins pop off, started getting a little bit greedy, wanted to get in and ride on those waves. And there you go. I mean, like you said, now you have to learn, you know, it takes that bear market. It sucks, but you know, people don't want to do it responsibly. Everything's a degen move until you're broke. And then
it's such a trend, dude. It's such a trend. Everybody on Twitter, like I've really gotten off Twitter for that reason. Absolutely.
Bro,
all
Twitter
spaces,
has been bad lately.
Dude,
like with
it
these
is
pump
so,
and dumps, it's bad.
It is so
like
weird. It makes no sense. Everybody wants to lose money, bro. Everybody on Twitter wants to lose money. You see, you go into these spaces. There's a reason why we walked away from spaces and from Twitter for a while now is everything is degen. If it's not degen, absolutely makes no sense. Throw all your money at it. You're going to become rich tomorrow or we all go broke. And that's the only mentality that really sells anything on Twitter. I was like, dude, this makes absolutely no sense. I'm not going to be part of this. I'm not going to partake in this. Like it's maybe it's for somebody else. That's fine. It's not for me.
I've had people in the industry, like, you know, at events come up to me and go, you know, that your channel would be like 10 times bigger if you just like talked more about altcoins and degen plays and stuff. Cause they're like, you just talk about Bitcoin all the time, you know? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So maybe my channel doesn't grow as big, but I'm not going to put that content out. I'm not going to like hurt people. And you know what I'm saying? Cause like, I don't know what the person on the other side of the screen is doing. I don't even know if what I'm doing is the right thing, but I do believe in the fact that if you are buying and holding Bitcoin in a responsible manner, you know, Ethereum, whatever, you're not mortgaging that, not doing what I did basically, then I have faith and I can feel comfortable going to bed at night, but I can't feel comfortable knowing that there's, you know, thousands of people watching me and I'm like, oh yeah, go buy bald coin, which just rubbed like 99% bald.
Yeah.
Come on.
Really upset the bald community.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm not, look, if you, here's the thing. I've always said, if you want to do these types of degen plays, don't be an idiot, because if you're looking at 100x or whatever, then you do 1%, that should be more than enough. if this is going to do, you know, what you think it's going to do. So if you want a moon bag, that's fine. 1%, who cares? You know, but betting the farm on bald, you know what I mean?
There's definitely a thing for it, and there's certain group of people that are influencers, create content creators, whatever you want to call them, that definitely push that narrative, and it just rubs me the wrong way. And I've you know, as I've been in the space longer,
you know what everybody's doing. We've been in the space long enough. Like, I was the guy on the other side. Don't forget, like, I have not always been a crypto influencer. I used to just be a guy listening to crypto. I saw that stuff even back when they were doing it. And then once you get on the inside, you realize all they're doing is loading up their bags, you know, promoting it.
They're making money off all those people.
They're dumping it on their subs. That's crazy. You know what I mean?
Like, the worst part is it's all on chain, so like it can be verified, and it is getting verified over time, and that's what's going to hurt them when the SEC comes knocking. Is hey, we can see that you literally promoted this, you didn't disclose. You know, it looks like insider trading. Basically, it looks terrible. And that was a huge problem back in like 2018 and 19. I know you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but like, there were projects shilling out hundreds of thousands of dollars to influencers to, you know, promote and giving them coins, and they were just dumping it on their followers. And a lot of them got called out for it eventually, because I mean, it's created some pretty jaded people out there, and as it should, you know.
Well, like you said, it's traceable, so it's like you can only hide it for so long. I mean, they know Richard Hart's wallet. They know they know my wallets if they want. You know, like they can find that. It's not impossible, like you said.
My thing is, there's a time to swing trade some altcoins, you know, and I'm not talking like, if you want to do some degen plays, like these like really big meme coins, whatever you're going to call them, just use risk management. Like you were saying, 1%'s enough.
Yeah.
You really want to lose 10% of your money or 20% to fucking Pepe or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't want to lose that. Like, that sounds awful. Or bald coin. Like, come on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you think it's going to do 100x or something like that, right? And, you know, you put like $500 in, that's $50,000. You see what I'm trying to say? So if you think the moon bags are going to do as big as they are, you put 500, you get 50, or you lose 500. But you put 50 in, hoping that you're going to get the 10x on that, and you lose that all. Well, that's like a lot of money for most people. You know, you're putting in these crazy amounts, you know, people throwing everything they have. So anyway, guys, I realize I actually have to get going soon.
We're closing
like
off the
way
show
over
here.
the time here. But you guys, you know what? I'm having a great conversation, so that's a good thing. Thank you, everybody, by the way. Everyone watching, you guys rock. I love all of you guys. You're amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on the show, guys. If you haven't smashed that like, smash that like. If you're not following Zombie, if you're not following Magic, links are down below. Go follow these guys. Go follow them on Twitter. Go follow them on YouTube, and smash the likes for their videos. It's free, and it helps us all out, you know, and it's something you can do to support everybody out here. So greatly appreciate you guys coming on the show. And, you know, I love having these conversations. They're so good, and they can go on forever, dude. This can be a 3-hour, 4-hour podcast every single time, because there's just so many things that we can talk about in the space here that, you know, is really beneficial to people. And it's just a great conversation, which is why I love these episodes so much, is being able to get together with other like-minded individuals in the space and really talk out some real issues. But like, guys, like always, question everything, trust nothing. And until next time, hodl like it's hot. See you guys.